This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I'm speaking today with winemaker Angela Osborne, who is joining us all the way from Los Alamos in California at the Grace Wine Company. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you today?
Good, good, good. On Canada Day, as I was just mentioning. So happy Canada Day.
Happy Canada Day.
So where are you? For those people who are unfamiliar with the geography of your sub-region, where are you exactly, Angela?
We are in a part of California called the Central Coast, which is stretches from sort of south of Santa Barbara to just north of Santa Maria. So it's about 2.5 hours north of LA, maybe 4 hours south of San Francisco, close to the ocean. The ocean's about 20 minutes drive. And the Santa Ynez Valley specifically is a pretty amazing east-west wine region that grows everything from Pinot and Chard on the very western point in the Santa Rita Hills all the way to Cabernet in the eastern part, what's called Happy Canyon. And we live kind of in the northern part of that valley in a small town of 600 houses, and it's called Los Alamos, and it's not the one in New Mexico where all my Kiwi friends thought I was moving to and thought I was bonkers.
Right.
This is the California horse town, Los Alamos.
Ah, right. And you specialize in one of my favorite grapes, Grenache, down there.
Mm-hmm. It's my favorite.
What drew you to Grenache, and what drew you to Grenache in California?
Well, I'm from New Zealand where Grenache doesn't exist. So I had to choose somewhere sun-loving to chase my dreams. And that was either California or Spain or France or Australia. And my father was American, so I had a US passport, which was a blessing.
Yep.
And I could come here and have this amazing opportunity of kind of chasing my dreams without all the traditional histories that maybe winemakers, at least in the old world, bring. So I moved here at 29 with 500 pounds in my pocket. I just come from living in the UK, and I'd only ever worked one harvest, and I had no winery and no winemaking degree, but I was in love with one grape that grew so beautifully here, and I've been chasing that dream ever since. That was in 2007, and I have the first magnum I made. Should I grab it?
Yeah, sure. This
is our tasting room, as you mentioned. So there's some things that are sacred. So this was the very first vintage, 2007, from the Santa Barbara Highlands vineyard.
Oh, fantastic! Excellent. And how big is your production there, Angela?
We do about 50 tons, so about 3,000 cases.
Okay.
We do 11 different Grenache. We do a rosé of Grenache, Blanc de Noise of Grenache, a Santa Barbara County blend of Grenache, a Santa Ynez Valley blend of Grenache, a Grenache Blanc, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 single vineyards.
Wow.
I think that's all.
Is there anyone else with such a large portfolio of Grenache, especially in your part of the world? No, I wouldn't think so.
I don't think so. My husband definitely is very proud of us being the biggest solely Grenache-focused winery on the planet.
Yeah.
We don't make that much, but we make lots of expressions that traverse the whole of the state, which makes it quite an interesting state. So the furthest south vineyard we work with, will it distort things if I move you around?
No, we can do that.
So the furthest south vineyard we work with is just here. That is planted in 1919.
Wow.
It's in eastern Los Angeles, and it's called Hoffa Ranch, and it's beautiful. And then sorry, that was a big finger shot. And then we work with Grenache all the way up to the Sierra foothills via Santa Cruz, Healdsburg, the Santa Barbara Highlands, Santa Rita Hills. So I think we have 7 AVAs covered.
Wow.
It's about a 1,000 mile stretch from the southernmost vineyard to the northernmost vineyard. And we do lots of driving.
I can imagine. Now, what is it that makes Grenache so special for you, Angela?
Well, it's the definition of grace in the grape world. To me, it has the perfect combination of yin and yang, masculine and feminine, that makes anything beautiful. But for me, it's the only grape that really can express both polarities in one place.
Mm-hmm.
And it certainly can be more of either energy, but the way I love it is when it's in balance. And I don't quite know any other grapes that can achieve that so beautifully.
Now, unfortunately, I'm speaking to you in the middle of this ongoing pandemic right now, and with you being positioned where you are, you're not so far away from one of the epicenters of the COVID-19 distributions, shall we say, Los Angeles County. How has the ongoing pandemic impacted things for you personally at the winery?
Oh, it's pretty weird being in a winery with a mask on.
Right.
From a winemaking perspective, it's all about like sensory communication, and to have a mask on takes that away. So that took a little bit to get used to. It's made it quite solitary. It was already pretty solitary. Now it's a lot more solitary. This time of year isn't a huge amount going on in the winery. We're topping and we're getting ready to bottle. And normally I'm on sales trips. So obviously there's been no sales trips.
Yep.
From a life perspective, it's pretty hectic. We have a 2, 4, and 6-year-old at home, and this is month 4. So that's been an epic adventure. And I would say from an economic perspective, our business has dropped by about 90%.
Wow, 90.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, LA is one of our biggest markets, and America is our biggest market. We export a fair amount, but we are 90% distribution, and most of that's just beer.
Excuse my ignorance here, but at what stage of lockdown is your area in right now?
Oh, it's oscillating between 2 and 3.
Okay.
We reopened the weekend before last. As a winery, we were given the ability to reopen. It's this whole like 6-foot distancing, so we have a very small tasting room and we can allow one group in at a time.
Right.
So it's become by appointment only, which is a nice way to have a very intimate sharing of our story.
Yeah.
All the bars have just been ordered to shut down here again. We're not considered a bar, even though we serve alcohol. We're an extension of a bonded winery, which is
right. I understand. Yeah.
So we can stay open, but it's only been one weekend, and it seems to change every day.
Right. Now, with you coming from New Zealand, how would you compare the way that the state has dealt with this compared to your homeland?
Oh, I think New Zealand's everyone's dream right now.
Yeah.
Including ours. My family's still in New Zealand. My mother, my stepfather, and all of my dearest friends, and they've handled it amazingly and with grace and with compassion, and everyone just unified. And America is like 50 different countries. It always surprised me that it can be so diverse, but in this instance, that diversity is meant there's no unified front. People can kind of make up their own rules and make up their own boundaries, if you will. And it's just sort of I don't know. It's a sad time to be here. It doesn't feel unified. Yeah. I mean, it really doesn't feel unified with the political stuff going on top of that. We live in a bubble in a little town, little cattle town that we live in, but I can't watch the news too much.
Yeah, I can understand that right now. We're actually going through an easing of lockdown here, and I have to admit to you, I'm going through bouts of quite serious anxiety about the easing, for want of a better term. So we're not in quite as dire a situation as some parts of the US, but Canada hasn't come out of this unscathed. I mean, indeed, hardly any countries have. I've been speaking to people the world over in the wine world, in hospitality, in beer, um, and in spirits, and everybody really doesn't know where this is going. And I'm imagining that you probably have some quite strong restaurant sales, right?
We used to.
Yeah, that's yeah. And you know that whole question about how the restaurant sector is going to come through this is one that you know, that's the $1 million question right there. How are things looking with regards to restaurants, and what do you see as the way forward for restaurants?
Um, so I think depending on what experience you look for when you're going to a restaurant, I like an intimate setting, which is
Yeah,
not really going to be a successful business model, because an
yeah.
intimate setting is probably a smaller restaurant, and if the tables have to be that spaced, it's just not really feasible to have a business with, 4 tables a night. I mean, that's hard to stay in business.
Mhm.
I think how you define hospitality is, your experience, and we're not meant to spend too much time talking with each other at the moment. So it really changes why you go out. If you just want to have a plate put in front of you without a dialogue, that might survive, but actually having a discussion and a chat and finding out the story behind the wine, or the story behind the mushroom, or anything that makes it more personal, seems to not have a place right now. And that's the bit that scares me, because
Yes, yeah.
for living in America, it's a very integral part of the culture here is going out. And most people do it a lot more than where I'm from. In New Zealand, we would go out for a birthday and Christmas, but it was not every week. And here people go out every week. It's just a part of their social fabric. So to have that taken away, it's a really social place here, and I don't know what it would look like without that social element.
How has your part of the world been with regards to following social distancing precautions?
I feel like this area is respectful.
Right.
We, with our young family and no childcare, my husband and I have taken turns to be at home and to be at the winery, and we haven't really ventured out as a family. But when our part of the world reopened last weekend and people started coming out, they're all sharing stories of everyone seems to be down on Orange County for not wearing masks, and
Really?
someone
Okay.
said they were in Paso and no one was wearing masks. It's not, but again, it's this confusing leadership where some people are saying it's mandatory,
Yeah.
others are saying we can't take away our personal liberties to decide for ourselves.
I'm sorry, I'm smiling. I shouldn't be smiling about that. I just I find it's really astonishes me the way that mask wearing has become as politicized as it has. It doesn't make any sense to me. But
no, but people are using it as kind of a self-defining act. And
yes, yeah.
that didn't happen in New Zealand.
Right. Well, I mean, I understand that masks can be uncomfortable and a pain in the backside, but I think anything that can in any way lessen the viral load in a time of contagion can only be a good thing, right? For society as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
At least that's my that's my input there. So you have there's not that much going on in the winery right now, but how are your vineyards looking?
Well, it's going to be another drought year, so
Yeah.
things right now are being pretty heavily irrigated. Again, it's a funny thing. Normally I would be spending more time in the vineyards, but you have to now give a whole lot of space to people that are in the vineyards working.
Yeah.
So it'll kind of by appointment only, which is fine, but again, it's a bit difficult to juggle. We've had to drop some of our contracts just because economically most of us are facing the same thing. We're all sitting on inventory that should have moved and hasn't, and therefore we don't have the resources to make as much wine as we traditionally would.
Yeah.
most of my friends are in that boat anyhow, those of us that have our own labels. So we've dropped 3 contracts. And what we're taking from the remaining sites is less. Everything looks quite serene next to the rest of the planet. What's going on, but it has been dry, and we had a crazy hot May, so it'll probably be an earlier season.
Do you think that California as a whole will be looking at quite a lot of surplus wine in the coming months?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And
it kind of makes me want to cry.
Has there been any indication from the government about any kind of support for that?
Oh no.
No.
No, there's not. Yeah, I mean, most people in our industry, be it wine or restaurant or a bar, I don't know, it's been a really hard hit industry, and most of us don't have kind of the corporate protection that you get with health insurance or any of those things. Yeah. If you're self-employed, the unemployment doesn't really play in. So no, it pretty much feels like we're on our own, and I'm not a farmer, and being a farmer would be quite nerve-wracking.
Yes, yeah. I've been reading about in Europe, there's going to be more surplus wine than there ever has been before. And, the bulk wine producers are looking for assistance from the European government to be able to turn all of their excess wine into industrial alcohol. Whereas these would, for lack of a better term, the plains producers and the hillside producers, they don't ever want to be turning their wine into industrial alcohol. So there's that kind of battle between the two sides of the wine world going on in Europe right now, and who knows where that will end up, because we have wineries all over Europe whose cellars and tanks are still full of wine.
Yeah. I know that we use high percentage ethanol as a cleaning product.
Yeah.
In the winery, and Manuel, who owns the winery where we make Grace, he was talking about how much he was paying per gallon for cleaning alcohol. It was either $7 or $8, and now it's $45.
Wow.
Because there's so much alcohol going into hand sanitizers.
Yes, yeah, that's interesting. Wow, I would never have thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's definitely, it's heartbreaking that all of those beautiful grapes will turn into 85% alcohol, but there'll be a big shortage. I mean, we use it. It's kind of the last stage of sanitation in the winery.
Yeah.
And there's you can't get it. I mean, you can get it, but it's insanely expensive.
Wow, I never even thought about that. Huh. Mm-hmm. All these things being interconnected. So I always like to leave these interviews on a kind of happy note, because we can go down kind of dark alleys in current times, most certainly. But what has been the most positive aspect, or the most positive thing that you have learned from this pandemic?
Well, it's kind of an answer of polarity, but there has been this incredible shift in it's become very clear the people that come from a place of grace and the people that come from a place of greed.
Yeah.
And the amount of people that I've been touched by that come from the former has been amazing. And I feel like in this society, people work a lot more, I would say, hungrily than potentially the culture that I was raised in.
Yeah.
And when you're caught up in that sort of rhythm and you're working that much, you don't take enough time to sit back and maybe give gratitude for where you are, or even put a thought to where you want to be if you're not quite there yet. This time has made all of us sit in some stillness, which I believe for this particular culture is a positive. And when you sit in that stillness, at least for our industry, the amount of grace that's popped up has been incredible. and at the same time there's, I don't know, they've been described as bottom feeders, and that sounds a little aggressive, but there's, you know, people that are trying to buy your wine at a crazy discount because they know that you're sitting on inventory.
Yes.
And there doesn't seem to be much between those two, you know. So for me, it's been, I don't make much wine, and yes, it supports my family, but I also want it to go to the right place.
Yeah.
And it's been quite enlightening, the part of the place I want to be in. So that's, yeah, that's, I don't know, there's been amazing kindness that's shown up, which has been really beautiful. And then there's been the opposite thereof. And if you can maybe remove yourself from too much of that side and spend more time on the kind side, and hopefully more people will sit on the kind side, then it hopefully will make us all be a bit more empathetic, I think.
Well, I do believe that times of crisis bring out both the best and the worst in people, that's for sure. And it's been a lot more obvious to me over the last 4 months, I would say. So that's a good observation, Angela. Thank you very much for your time today. And it would be nice to check in with you a little bit further down the line, see how things are going. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing your wines in our marketplace up there.
Oh, I would love them to be, and we've been trying to do a visit for a long, long time. I hate to say that I've never been north of the US-Canadian border.
Oh my goodness. We have to fix that. We have to fix that.
I know. It's at the top of the list.
Well, we'll see you in Toronto at some point soon, I hope.
Please, it would be amazing. Thank you for the time. And,
thank you for your time.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye.